Starting this podcast was an unexpected step of obedience of something that God has called me to do. Through this podcast, I will be interviewing ordinary people who have seen and experienced God move in extraordinary ways throughout their lives. I pray that this will build your faith and encourage you to testify of God's goodness in your everyday lives. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Testify of God's Goodness podcast. I have one of my best friends, Sirbaugh, here with us today. So I'm really excited about this. I want to share a quick story before we dive in. So I had mentioned to Sam, really all the women in the women's group, about like if they would ever feel called to do this. And I shared a little bit about this on the previous podcast with Darren. And I was just praying like, God, whoever you want to do this, I pray that you will lay it on their heart before I even ask them about it. And so actually, Darren's assistant that was trying to get a hold of me, it didn't come through on my messenger because we weren't friends. And she knew that Sam was friends with me. So she got a hold of Sam and was like, how do I get a hold of Sarah about him doing the podcast? And so I feel like, God, you were one of the 5 on that Monday that reached out to me. So I feel like God allowed that to happen and had her specifically message you for you to be like, okay, God, I hear you. Here's my clarity. And the night before you said like God had you up. Like in the middle
I
of
was
the
almost
night.
asleep and like woke me up and I was like, I think I need to do the podcast. I'll just brush that off.
Well, I'm very thankful that you're doing this because what we're going to talk about is so important, and I feel like a lot of people don't want to talk about the hard things. So we prayed before we started talking that this is just like a life-giving thing and that it does point others back to Christ. And so, and it's really sweet. So how old's Kinsley? 7?
Almost 7.
Yeah, and then Cameron's
4, and then Parker's 2.
Yes, they've been like praying over her with this I'm sure it's going to make an impact on them, like showing, sometimes God asks us to do stuff
uncomfortable.
Sometimes.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot of the time, God asks us to step out of our comfort zone in order to do His will and point others back to Him. It's not comfortable, but it is so life-giving to get to do that. So, just tell us a little bit about yourself. So your callings in life, family, and then how we know each other.
So my name is Sam, and my husband is Glenn. We've been together 10 years, so since high school.
Wow.
And we have our 3 kids, so life is crazy and fun and busy.
Yeah.
And we homeschool, so we've made that decision. That's fun. So I feel like I struggled for a really long time with the whole callings thing, thinking that like I needed something big and huge in life, and I don't know, but that doesn't have to be it. Like I feel like being a mom, homeschooling, and then like serving in our church, I feel like that's where I'm meant to be right now, and I'm 100% content with where I am at right now. So there's that. I guess I knew of you in high school. I think we had a class together, maybe, but like I would never talk to you in school, I don't think. And then when we started going to Covenant, like even then, I don't think I really talked to you at church until we started walking at the park because of Hannah. So and that's like how we got to know each other and our kids all. A little kid crew.
Yeah. So I remember that was such a sweet season in my life because I had just God called me away from teaching to be at home, and I was like, I'm such an extrovert. God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Like how I'm just going to be at home with like a baby who doesn't talk. Now she doesn't stop talking. But I was like, how am I going to do this? And then we started, I don't even know how it happened, but we started
going. There was a couple of us that we would go every Monday.
Yeah, every week. Yeah.
And then I remember Madeline, she was throwing up a lot. Yeah, and I had already discovered that Cameron had the lactose intolerance. Mm-hmm. We had to stop eating all dairy and everything. And then I suggested that to you. And then that's what Madeline had. So.
Yes, for the first year of her life, she was like, projectile vomiting. And it was just really hard. So we found out that she was allergic to dairy. Now she's totally fine with it. It just lasted that year, but it was really hard. So all 3 of us, all 3 of us had to go through that. But it was such a sweet season because I was so in my head and I was just praying like, God, please just give me a community. Because when I moved back home from college, like we had some friends that we met up with, but it just never clicked, and so I was just praying for that. And I remember Dakota not thinking when my comments like, I wish you had somebody to hang out with. And I'm like, me too.
Yeah, so whenever we bought our house, Kinsley was close to 2, I guess. And then Josh and Hannah bought the house next door. And I remember the guys clicked and they got along, they would hang out, and they would push for me and Hannah to hang out. And I was like, nah, I don't really I don't know, I don't need to be friends.
Yeah.
We're fine. And then finally, we started talking and we clicked. And then they brought us to Covenant and then to our entire community at church.
Yeah. So, and really out of that little group, our women's group started. And so that we do that 2 Fridays a month, but it's just, I'm so thankful. It's something that I prayed, if you are having a hard time finding community, and we're going to talk about this, I would say just pray for it and seek it and invite others. Be the one to invite.
I feel like God definitely put the people in front of you, but you have to do some work. They're not just going to be your friend and click with you immediately if you're not doing anything. So you do have to reach out and be out of your comfort zone sometimes. So.
Yes, that's so good. Okay, so what part of your testimony do you feel led to share today?
Just my struggle with postpartum, depression and anxiety, and I've opened up a little bit about it at women's group, but I don't know, I'm not I guess full extent, I guess. I don't know. So just sharing about that. So I guess so we started coming to Covenant right when Cameron was born. So she it was either right before or I think it was right after she was a newborn, and I didn't realize anything until way later, but also I think when you're in the deep pits of it, you don't really know you're in it until you're coming out of it, or even looking back at pictures now, especially after Parker, it was really bad after Parker, and I honestly don't like looking at pictures after, and it's really sad. I feel I missed out on a lot of his from up until a year old. I feel I missed out on a lot of things because of it, honestly. But but with Cameron though, I don't know. It wasn't until I think around 6 months maybe, and they ask you a postpartum visit. There's 6-week visit, and that's the last they see you. And I don't know what nurse it was, but she did not she said it more of here's a form, fill it out, tell me if you have it or not. And I'm I'm not gonna open up to someone like that. Why would you want to? Because they don't seem helpful. They don't seem like they care. So I mean, at that moment, I don't think I realized I had it, but just. We would do things and I would just feel really sad for no reason, and the anxiety was crazy bad. So one of the stories, I thought about it this morning and I put it in my notes. But so whenever Glenn went back to work for the first time, Cameron was 5 days old, and the bassinet was at the end of our bed, and I was making the bed, and I look over and Kinsley, who is still 2, she's still little, she got her sister out of the bassinet, was carrying her around, and I panicked.
Yeah.
It was, oh my god, just so bad. Which I feel like now, after having 3 kids, I'm it's not that big of a deal. She was probably fine. And then there was another time, and she was probably 6 months old at least, because she was sitting up, and I was cleaning out her closet, and Glenn had a necktie. It was still tied at the neck, and Cameron had it over her head, and Kinsley came in the room, and she I don't know her intentions. I don't think she was trying to, but she was pulling her by her neck with the tie across the room.
Oh my gosh.
Now it's funny, but I mean, I freaked out.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And I feel with the anxiety too, I don't know, you're trying to protect your child so badly, but it's your other child. It's not it's not an enemy, it's not something bad. It's just a child who's learning. And so that I think that was really hard. And I still kind of struggle with it sometimes, because your body's in fight or flight mode. So that's what it is. And when we would go on walks to the mailbox, we have the blacktop road, and I would never let them run ever. And I'm now I'm that's kind of silly. Kids like to run, but I would never let them run. They had to walk because I was scared that they might fall.
Yeah,
doesn't make sense now. But after reading the book, I wrote that down. I gotta look up what that is. By Sissy Goff.
She's so good. They have the Raging Girls
one, because that book helped me tremendously with really the worry-free parent. That's what it was. And she talks about how your anxiety, sometimes there are other underlying issues, but a lot of it is learned behavior from your parents, from the way you grew up. And so I see now, like, my mom does have anxiety. I can see that. And, like, my sisters struggle with different things as well. And, like, so I see that. And so it kind of helps me, like, know, like, what to do and how to be different, because I don't want my girls suffering from this. It's not fun. It's really not. And then, like, we met Lisa from, I mean, I didn't really realize she went to church, because the right side was the kid's side, the left side was everybody else.
Yeah, it kind of is like that.
You know, all the babies were on this side. And so, like, I met Lisa from here, and, like, whenever she started opening up about her anxiety, like, I feel like I didn't realize a lot of the stuff that I was going through until she, like, pointed it out. I was like, okay, like, that's what I have. So she helped me through it a lot.
Yeah.
Even though she might not know it, but.
That's so cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that. So what advice would you give someone who's walking through that or has a loved one walking through that right now?
Definitely take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, being a mom, it's like, it sounds silly, but, oh, I forgot to eat lunch. Like, to other people, how do you forget to eat lunch? But really, like, there are times, like, if you don't be intentional, like, you will forget to take care of yourself and do the simple, take a shower, like, especially early postpartum, like, take a shower, like, brush your teeth, like, do all just the simple things. And then, like, as you get farther along, like, in your, like, postpartum journey, just, like, for me, like, meal prepping, like, that's something I've really started doing now, but, like, early postpartum I did that, like, where we had the freezer meals and all of that things, and people would bring us meals. But, like, now, like, one Sunday, like, after church, like, Sunday afternoons, evenings, I do breakfast for the week, and then lunches for the week, and then sometimes, like, snacks, and then the kids have, like, easier breakfast things that, like, I can pull from the freezer or whatever. But that makes it a lot easier to make sure
I do that with my lunches. It's really helpful.
Well, and eating enough, like, for a while, like, I wasn't eating enough calories at all for, like, what we should do, especially for breastfeeding.
Oh,
and, like, that was a whole nother struggle, which, like, I'll talk about that too. But just, like, being burnt out, like, that's a real thing. And I feel like when you go, especially when you're staying at home, like, I mean, like, some moms do go back to work, but, like, just doing the same thing every single day on repeat, like, you get very burnt out from that very fast. So, like, you need to recognize that, like, get a babysitter if you need to go shopping for the day, or, like, we do the women's group on Friday, every other Friday, so the kids go downstairs, and although it's chaotic when we first get here, because all the kids are loud, but it's really fun, and it's, like, it's nice, and I feel refreshed afterwards. But.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, definitely put down the phone. I feel like, and, when your settings on your phone, you can go on there and see how long you've been on, what apps and everything, and it's really eye-opening to see, like, how long, and just, like, the comparison on there, like, from parenting to, like, your house to what kind of car you have, like, just everything, like, the comparison is the thief of all joy. Like, it was awful. Prioritize sleep. I feel like there's times I've went through it, like, where, like, the kids are finally sleeping at night, so, hey, I'll stay up and watch TV, or I can do this, and I stay up till midnight, and then, like, that lack of sleep builds and builds and builds, and really, it's not good for you at all, for sure. Let's see what else I want to talk about. Supplements. I feel like, definitely looking into supplements. Like, I started taking some, like, natural supplements, because, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with, like, going to the doctors and, like, if they think that you should be on something and doing that, but I did some natural supplements, and I can tell when I forget to take them for a few days, like, I start really.
What specifically do you use?
Ashwagandha and Alaskan rhodiola is it's like a dropper one, and, like, at first the taste is a little weird at first, but now it's like you do it a little bit of water and just.
And what does that do? Like,
it's just supposed to help with, like, the anxiety symptoms, like just stress and.
Wow. And I want to say with that, I remember reading, like, the pamphlet. I don't even know why I read it, because I know most people don't, but the pamphlet that the hospital sent you home. Okay, and one of the things it said was magnesium can cause, like, a lack of magnesium can cause postpartum depression.
And there's, like, several different types of magnesium. I'm pretty sure. Like, they're, like, you can, like, put some on your feet, like, do a lotion like that, and there's some you can ingest, and, like, I do a magnesium drink. Yeah,
I just do, like, the Nature's. I don't know what it is.
Dropper, like, is it droppers?
No, it's just like a vitamin that I take. So, because I always take multivitamins, but magnesium, it only gives you, like, 20% of your daily value. So I take another one that gives me 100%. And I feel like that's made a world of difference too. And, like, drinking enough water. I wasn't always great at that. Like, you're supposed to, even if you take 3 gulps of water first thing in the day before you have coffee or anything else, it hydrates your system. Whereas if you start with coffee or other things, your body's trying to catch up like all day long.
And for your hormones, I've heard like you should never have coffee before you've eaten, like hormone health. I don't really know exactly why. I'm not a doctor, but
okay.
I've always do. Like, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but if I do, I always make sure I do like eat before I have coffee because. And I also get like really jittery, and coffee makes my anxiety like way worse too.
That, yeah.
So I really just try to stay clear of it, or like I'll do it very weak. So then that way I'm.
Yeah. Or I know like sometimes they say with anxiety, even running your hands under warm water can really calm you down. So just taking, if you're feeling really anxious first thing in the morning, even just doing that to calm yourself a little bit. And then I know a lot of women will be like you said with skipping meals, like I'm not a breakfast person, but that does mess with your hormones majorly. So even if you can eat a protein bar, that does not take time. You can eat as you're walking around.
But I've also, like, on a podcast I heard, they talked about like if you're not hungry in the mornings and you are able to skip breakfast, it's because your body is like the learned behavior. So if you start eating breakfast, then you'll be a breakfast person. Like our bodies need breakfast. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So just taking little steps like that and do research and look for natural ways. And like you said, if you need other supplements like that the doctors give you, or like even medicine, there's no shame in that either.
Yeah.
And I always try to tell people like do that along with deepening your relationship with the Lord, because that like takes so much stress off, just knowing I'm not walking through it alone.
It really does.
Just brings me, I mean, the Bible does say he will give us a peace that surpasses all understanding. And like, I could not do this life apart from him. And like, having that strength.
I think for a while, like when we first started going to church, like we would go on Sundays and that's once a week. Like, I didn't read my Bible at home. Like, I didn't know how, honestly. Like, what sounds crazy. Like, I would pick it up. I would start in the beginning and I would try, and like, I would get to a point where it was hard and then I would just stop because it got hard. And then, like here in I forget what it was. It was in springtime. Me and Hannah started doing the Bible recap together, and there's a little video where she really breaks down what you're reading, and I mean, it's amazing. Like, I like it a lot.
Yes.
And it's really helped. But like doing our daily Bible readings, like that really helps. And then just praying with him. So like not just on Sundays, like you're getting it all week long. And,
yes.
So.
And it does say, the Bible does say like pray without ceasing. And so that's not you sitting in a corner praying all day, like just praying throughout your day. Like, God, I pray for strength before my feet hit the floor every morning. Like, God, give me strength for this day because I know I need a lot of it. Like, we're in the thick of it. Yeah, with babysitting.
And your own kids. Like, I mean, the tantrums and...
Yeah, I keep reminding myself, like,
kids.
with that, like, their strong wills are going to pay off in the future. And, like, Madeline is so stinking smart, but she still has the emotions of a 3-year-old. So I just keep telling myself, like, it's not always going to be like this. We are in the training period. Like, I just have to go back to that. Like, it's not always going to be like this. And I've heard the advice, be the parent that you needed. So I'm like, they don't need me, like, yelling. Like, that's not helpful.
Doing the work on ourselves to, like not that our parents were bad, but, like, I feel like even, like, our kids are going to want to change things how we parented.
Absolutely.
But, like, it's hard when that's what you know. Like, that's what you grew up as. So, like, doing the work for yourself, reading the books, the podcast, like, all of that is very helpful.
Yes. And then I always encourage people, like, get a part of a local church, especially that has a nursery. And if they don't have a nursery,
awesome.
Yes. Her and Hannah lead it up.
When we started going 4 years ago, Kinsley was the one kid in the nursery. Now we have,
I forgot that.
I mean, I would say about, I think 16, but obviously not all of them go every Sunday. But I mean, like, it's like at least 16 or 16 plus kids now. And it was fun.
Yes, that is so crazy. We had like a girl baby boom and then a boy baby
boom. Yeah, the boys
boom.
I know all the boys are moving in the nursery now. It's getting wild, but I love it in there. It's so fun. I love serving in the nursery.
That's so needed. That's so
I think like that really also helped me, like finding something that like I was needed in, like like doing VBS. Like I love doing vacation Bible school, but like it's a week, so it's like almost like, and I don't know if it's like the depression part or like it was just like other people experience it too. Like whenever I had like a really big high, it's like after that it's like I would crash and like what do I do with my life now? Like whenever we had our wedding, like wedding planning was like a big exciting thing. After our wedding, it was just like I was so like in the pit again, and it it was, so just doing
Yeah.
something consistent, like with the nursery where
Yeah.
it's always putting work into it and like all of that. It's really nice.
Yes. That's so good. But I mean, like, even for me, now that I'm able to have that hour of being like poured into, and like Aiden screams when I drop him off, but usually by the time the door is shut, he's fine. And I always tell the nursery workers, if he cries for more than 5 minutes, just bring him out to me. And I like wouldn't put him back there because I felt so guilty for the workers and for him when he was screaming so much. But then he like everybody would be laughing, but also I was like, this is really distracting for everybody. He like want to run up and down the aisle, or like he's so active. He's a 1-year-old boy. He's just so active. So now that I've done that for the past like month and a half, he's used to it. He still screams. He cries.
But it's really quick now. It's like really fast.
He calms right down. Like, so that's been really
like whenever I'm in there, we always do like music, little worship session, and all the kids, and that calms them right down. So it's great.
Yes. So get that time to yourself, like.
But yes, especially like free, like being a stay-at-home mom. Like my kids are always with me, so yeah. Like the Sundays I'm not in nursery, I'm like, okay guys, good enough.
Yes,
like
and
it's my time.
They're getting poured into, and you're getting poured into, and
like it's especially our nursery. Like we don't just play, like we actually do lessons with them, and they are learning. Like they play some, but they are learning
and memorizing Bible verses.
Yeah, they get prizes.
That's amazing what you guys are doing. And also, I want to add that took me. So they had me and Nicole Connell, like when someone else had stepped down, like we were in charge of nursery. And then I was doing nursery, and I was doing youth, and I was doing the women. And I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to step down from? And he wanted me to step down from that. And I was doing like the bare minimum because I was like, I'm stretched way too thin. And then like, that's when you and Hannah stepped into it.
Yeah.
So like,
Which there really weren't a lot of kids then either. So like, it was mostly just like they would go and play and have snacks, I think.
Yes, but you guys have done so much. So it does take, if you are like stretched so thin, pray for what God wants you to step away from. And that takes being humble.
Even though they are good things, like you don't need to do
exactly.
Like seeing you do that with like the teens and just different things like that. Like, it's really helpful to see that it's okay to.
It is like you can't
just pray and ask for guidance and look for the signs. I feel like whenever I'm like falling asleep, I have this moment where things just come to me, and I'm like, I need to write this down, or I'm gonna forget and not forget this one. So like, what you look for in life is what you see. So like, I mean, if you're not looking. If you pray to God and ask for a sign, if you're not looking for the signs, you're not going to see the signs, or you're just going to be oblivious to it. Like, you have to look for it. Same with just, like, I feel like that can go for a lot of things. Like, absolutely. Like, the positive things in life. Like, if you're always looking at the bad things, you're going to see the bad things. Like, you're not going to see the good things.
Yeah. So, that's the word for me, too.
Things that came to me the other night.
That's such good advice. And people will say, like, how do you balance it all? And I've heard it's more of a juggle. And it's true. So, like, at first you can juggle maybe 2 balls at once, and then you go to 3, and then 4. But, like, if you have too many, you're going to drop them all. So, like, figuring out which ones, like, what is the front lines for you? What are you being called to? And then drop some of the other ones. It doesn't have to be forever, but it can be for now. So, yeah. Just pray a lot for clarity, and then having a community like we have that people can speak into that and say, like, you got too much going on, or even here's what I see.
Get their opinions on anything in your life, honestly. Like here recently, like I asked you a question, like financial question, because like me and Glenn weren't sure about something, and it was like a huge decision, but I was like, hey, like, what's your advice on this one? Like,
okay, let's talk about that. Do you want to talk about that? Okay, so you had texted me and you were like, does this make sense? Because you wanted to get a gym membership. Again, that's like goes along with taking care of yourself, and explain it a little bit.
So like, of what I could pay like X amount of dollars for just me, but then I'd have to take my kids, like drive 15 minutes out of the way, like almost, because my mom lives right up to you, like close to your house. So 15 minutes one way to drop them off, go to the gym, go all the way back to pick them up, and then home. Half my day is gone by then. Yeah. So like, I mean, that's a lot. So paying a little bit extra for the childcare they provide, like,
and it was what, $6 a day extra?
Yeah, it adds up to me, with $6 a day total, because it's plus me. So really, it's not that bad. And so then that way we get up, get dressed, go to the gym, come home, and then it's a lot easier. So, but just having someone to like walk through that decision with, like just to make sure, like, is this a good decision, or like, is it not so good? Like, I don't know. So that was helpful.
Yeah, and my advice with her, like to her with that, I was like, do whatever you feel like you need to do financially. But I said, if you are so inconvenienced that you're going to drive 30 minutes out of your way, and then you're
Every
probably
day.
going to feel like you need to visit with your mom while you're there. So that's another like 20 minutes. So, I mean, it's almost an hour extra, and then driving back to your house too. So there's another like 20 minutes. So you've added an hour and a half to your day. If you go 4 days a week, that's like, you know, do the math, like you're almost at 6 extra hours.
And I hate driving. I'm just saying, I
so
do not like
if you
driving.
are so inconvenienced to doing that every single week, you're going to get
You're
burned
gonna
out,
drop
and then
it,
you're going to make excuses and like, I don't want to go to the gym because I don't want to go out of my way to do all that stuff. Like, so you have to take your time into consideration when it comes to, when it comes into like making a decision, like not only financially, but your time is worth a lot too. So I'm proud of you for making that decision.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We started that today. The kids loved it. They all loved it. So it was great.
Good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.